I didn't want to have to do this. Oh. I'm going so far past it.
1, 2, here we go, here we go, here we go. There we go.
Now that's sorted, let's jump right in. Nestled in the middle of beautiful French countryside in the quaint village of Latoum lays the prestigious big carp water Trois Iles. This lake contains some ridiculously large carp, with the lake record coming in at over 85 pounds. It's the middle of September, the carp are on the feed, and I've teamed up with Finley Todhunter. I know distance fishing could really be the key to success on this lake, and despite his size, Finley certainly knows how to chuck a lead. The plan, well, to beat our personal best of course, and what better place could offer the chance to do just that?
Donk. Rightio, as you would have seen earlier on, Finn won the cast off, much to his pleasure. We really both wanted that peg. There was a few fish in front of it, but I certainly can't blame him for jumping in there. Nicole, the owner though, just as I got set up next door, come round and told us that some poor matey, his car's broken down and a swim had become available on that other side. So to give Finn a little bit more room so I wasn't plotted up next to him and maybe increase our chances if the fish were in different areas, I've decided to come directly opposite him, which is still a long way away. I can see him over there, that's got to be about 500 yards. So yeah, I've got a lot of water in front of me and a new swim to go at. What I'm doing now though, it's getting dark, it's quite late, it's got to be 8 o'clock already. I'm just having a quick lead about. I found a little gravel patch, probably about 120 yards or so. So what I'm going to do is get 3 rods out into that zone tonight, see if I can stick a few baits over it. It might be a little bit too far, if not I'll put 3, 4, 5 dot spots. I don't want to make too much fuss at this time of night as we're going into the evening, and then I'll see that through till tomorrow morning, get bite time out of the way, or the usual bite time, the morning period, and then about 11 midday I'll reassess if nothing's happened, and yeah, sort of start again from there. But for now, I suppose we'll just take it from there.
When finding a spot, it's the make or break between catching and not. Now, a lot of people are a little bit scared that spending hours upon hours leading up will spook the fish out of the swim, but at the start of a long week session, I'd much rather take my time, find that perfect spot so I know that my rigs are going to be presented, and more importantly, I'm going to be able to fish there comfortably throughout the week. Now, when you're fishing at range, it is something that you've got to take into consideration. You might be able to cast out there 30, 35 wraps, but are you going to be able to do that all week? Because to be honest, it is hard work constantly spotting, casting out your rigs at that distance. So when I'm finding a spot, I might be able to chuck my leading rod much further than my fishing rods. And I might find the perfect spot out in the middle of the lake, but if I can't reach it with the fishing rods, it is pointless. So the spot that I found in this session, it was a nice comfortable distance, it was nice clean bottom. To be honest, I was looking for a little bit cleaner, and there was cleaner further out, but I felt like dropping onto that spot was going to be the perfect area. Now that I've found a spot out there, I'm going to be getting my rigs and rods ready for the night. Now, the hook baits that I'm going to be putting out on the spot, I'm going to change it around in terms of the sizes of hook baits out there. I have been told that bream can be a bit of a nuisance on here, so I'm going to try and avoid using smaller hook baits. However, when you are fishing at distance, especially at the spot that I've found in this session, it can get quite difficult casting large hook baits out there just because your rig's going to be less aerodynamic. So on one rod, I'm going to fish a 15mm hardened hook bait. It might get picked up by a bream, it might not, but I'm going to try it for the first night. And on the other rods, I'm going to fish snowmen with a couple of different coloured pop-ups on the top. That's going to be the tactic for the first night. In terms of bait on the spot, there are plenty of carp in here, the big carp and the hungry, and I could put out 10 kilos and catch, but I have been speaking to the lake owner and they've informed me that over the last week or so, it has been fishing a little bit slow. The guy in here this week, he only caught a couple of carp, and I don't want to fill it in because he might have put a load of bait out there. It might still be fishing quite slow and that bait could be sat there. So the last thing that I want to do is put new bait on top of old bait. So I'm going to go in with probably around a kilo. It might sound like a lot compared to fishing back in the UK, but like I said, this lake is jam-packed full of big carp, and I feel like that's going to be the perfect amount to try and nick a bite. Looking across the lake on that first evening, we're seeing loads of carp jumping out in the middle and some big ones as well. This certainly added an extra bit of pressure to make sure we're fishing 100% going into that first night. Me personally, I took my time wrapping all 3 rods up, clipping them on, putting fresh rigs on all 3 rods and whacking them out there towards the horizon markers which I picked earlier on in the day. More importantly though, I took my time at feeling the lead, hitting the bottom to make sure that I was landing bang on the clear spots that I chose to fish. It's then a simple case of taking the line out of the line clip, sinking the lines, putting the rods back on the bite alarms, and that was it. I was fishing. There was certainly an element of excitement in the air, and I just had to pray that maybe we'd get one. Well, I did not expect to be seeing this on the first night. We're hooked into what feels like a big French carp. I'm not sure what time of night it is. I do know it's probably not too long till first light. The reason is around 3:30. I had a weird liner bite. I'm not really sure what happened. Rechucked the rod and I just drifted back off to sleep. And the left-hander has screamed off. So I'm not sure if it's because I'm nervous, but it feels pretty big. It might not be. But I really did not expect to be seeing this on the first night. But it's a good sign. And interesting thing about this rod was it wasn't actually really far out into the lake. It was 21 wraps, I think. So it definitely shows that the fish are moving out of that central area in the hours of darkness. But I am very nervous, so I'm going to concentrate. And hopefully in a couple of minutes, we'll have one in the net. I see her. I don't know how big it is, but it is pretty big, and that is our first French carp. Yes! That is not small. I'm not sure how big it is. It's pretty big. I'm gonna guess 40-50 pounds. But whatever it is, we're off the mark on the first night. Yes! 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 I don't know what to say. My target this week was to catch one 50-pounder. If I caught one 50-pounder, one fish in the 4 week, I would have taken that as a success. But it's the first night and we've landed something bigger than 50 pounds in the shape of this 60-pound French mirror. I'll try and give it a quick lift. It is being pretty lively, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the strongest person in the world, so lifting something this big is pretty hard. But one thing I am grateful for is Alfie moving to the other side of the lake, because this was actually my left-hander. Now I'm not gonna lie, I pushed his old swim up a little bit. There she is. 60 pounds. I don't know what to say. What a fish. What a place. What a carp.
Well, as you can see from behind me, it is a very misty morning here today at Trois Iles. I mean, the time now is just getting on for 20 to 8, so it's not exactly super early. I didn't catch anything last night, to be expected, to be honest. It was really late, it was raining, I was rushing. Managed to get 3 singles out, so of course I did stand some chance, but no joy. But Finley, on the other hand, the wonder kid opposite me, has gone and landed a 60-pounder on his first night, so fair play to him. Great bit of angling on his part, and yeah, and a really nice message to wake up to this morning. So he must be chuffed. I'm chuffed for him. My plan of action for the day, I need to wait for this mist to burn off so I can see a little bit more, and then I'm going to start finding a spot as close to where they've been shown as possible. I mean, it's extreme range. I don't want to fish out of my means, so I'm going to fish as close to the island as possible. but make sure I can get bait there accurately and consistently over the course of the week. So in the meantime, whilst I'm waiting for that, what I'm going to do is have a little bit of a tidy up, get some rigs sorted. So once it has gone, I'm ready and I can almost start the session from today. So I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, just a case of waiting for the mist to burn off.
And I'm into another one. It's not surging. I've been told that on this lake, most of the bites come at night. So when the rod ripped off this morning, with this absolute brute of a mirror, just under 45 pounds, I was more than happy. 2 fish on the first night in France. We can't complain. Hopefully Alfie can get amongst a few, but if we carry on catching fish just like this, we're in for a fantastic week. If you're ever going to wake up in France, you want it to be like this. A wet hoodie, stinking of fish, and our first night in France has been exactly just that. I was able to catch 2 fish last night. The first one was 60 pounds. I couldn't believe it. My target for the week was 50, and then the second one was a monster at just under 45 pounds. Now, going into yesterday, I led it up and I found a nice spot pretty far out in the lake, to be honest, over 30 wraps. And I've been told that range is really important at this lake. All the fish tend to congregate in the middle, so I found that spot, but we were sort of losing the light quick. The day just flew past, as always when you're in France. So what I decided to do, instead of rushing to get all the rods out there, baiting up accurately in the dark, I actually found a few fish just crashing down to the left. So instead of panicking, getting them out, I decided to go easy, bait up nice and light, closer in, still at a fair distance, around 90 yards, and I put the rods out there for the night. To be honest, I was confident that they were going to produce fish, but I'd much rather be out at that long range spot. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to spend today making a fresh mix, getting new rigs tied, and I'm going to take my time getting them rods out on the long spot. I feel like doing it early afternoon will give me plenty of time, so if something does go wrong, I've got time to reset, get everything bang on for the hours of darkness.
Bit soft, that one. Right, okay then. It's a new dawn, a new day. I'm feeling fresh. Yesterday was a big old rush in that rain. It was horrible, if I'm completely honest. Got the 3 rods out there, didn't expect to bite. It was 3 singles, but today I'm excited. I'm ready to get started. So to tell you exactly how I'm starting things off, what I've done is the leading rod, I've clipped this up at 120 yards, 30 wraps. And the reason for that is it's because it's a distance I know I can fish despite what happens with the weather across the week. It's calm at the minute. Yes, I can go a bit further. Yes, the fish are certainly at extreme range at the moment, but I know that the wind is going to pick up. And if I start fishing 35 wraps, for example, I'm not going to be able to get there comfortably or even at all if I get a strong crosswind or a headwind. So a really important thing to consider is make sure you're fishing a spot accurately and somewhere you can fish consistently across the week, because if you imagine you get the rigs and bait out there, the fish start topping tomorrow, you can't reach them, it's going to be frustrating, it's going to be really annoying, and you're not going to catch them. So yeah, that's the first port of call. Second port of call is, of course, I want to find a nice spot at that range. So what I'm going to do now, map my swim to the left, to the right of my boundary at a comfortable range, find the spot that I think is the best to present a bait on. I'm looking for something that's a little bit firmer than everything else. It's pretty, sort of, you get a drop everywhere, but some are firmer than others. And yeah, that's going to mean business. I'm going to get some bait out there, get 3 rods over the top, and then hopefully it's just a case of waiting. Generally, when it comes to casting, you want to be transferring your body weight. So I generally start off with high arms, making sure my arms are both high in the air, back behind my head, and then weight on the back foot, lean through the cast, transfer my weight onto my front foot, and as I transfer, I'm pulling my left hand, my left arm, because I'm right-handed, into my belly button area, and then I'm stopping the rod at about a 45-degree angle. That's really important. You don't want to overcast where it comes down and up, because you want to transfer all the energy you're putting into the rod through bending it into the lead. So a sharp, quick pull of the left arm, stop that right arm, the energy gets transferred from the rod into the lead, and as such, it's going to go further.
The plan for today was I was going to keep the rods out of the swim for until around 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, the reason why I was going to do this was I was going to take my time early afternoon getting the rods out, so they're out there perfect for the hours of darkness. Now, while I've been sat in the bivvy just sort of waiting for that time to come, I have noticed a lot of fizzing out in my water in between the two islands. And if I was back home in England, I'd be casting single hook baits at them, trying to nick a bite that way. Now, I might be wasting my time, I might not be. I have been told the lake doesn't do daytime bites, but we had that one this morning. So I'm going to fire this rig out there where these fish are fizzing, give it a few hours. It might work, it might not, I just don't know. So let's give it a go and hopefully it will pay off. Just like pressured day tickets back in the UK, these big French commercials, them carp have seen everything, and they'll do anything to try and find a safe area to hide. Now, on this lake you've got 3 islands, and in between these islands there's a small area, probably around 10 acres in size, where them fish, they just know no one's going to be able to cast their bait boats. Boats aren't allowed on this lake, and it's just a natural out of bounds. So having long range fishing within your armoury, being able to cast that little bit closer to them fish if they are holding in that area, is going to certainly have a massive advantage in your angling. Now, you might think, why can't I just turn up here, fish a couple wraps out underneath bushes in the edge? That will work. I'm not saying that's not going to work, but from what I've seen, and especially what I've seen on this session, them fish do tend to hold out in the middle, and having long range in your fishing is certainly going to have an advantage.
Let's talk bait. Now, my approach for this week couldn't be any simpler. Boilies, a very simple way to fish, and there's a number of different reasons why I'm opting for a boilie only approach on this session. The main one being there are a number of bream present in this lake, so I don't want to be using particle, things like pellet, hemp, anything like that, because the last thing I want to be doing is reeling in a bream at 120 yards, or if there's a shoal of them on me and I'm getting repeated bream action. That's not what you want when you're here for a week and there's loads of big carp out there. I'm using scope squid boilies in 20mm, 18mm and 15mm, just a mixture of sizes. But what I'm also doing is adding a number of liquids just to get some extra attraction, some extra pulling power, and maybe give them a little bit of an edge that other people wouldn't be using on a trip like this, different to the boilie straight out the bag. I'm actually using the scope squid spod syrup. I'll give it a nice glazing, gives them a lovely sticky feel, loads of attraction in that. But to add to that further, I then take a bottle of worm cell, which is just blended worms. There's not a fish that swims that doesn't love worms. And yeah, really simple fishing, to be fair. I'm gonna get them out with a dot spot at 120 yards. The seagulls are a bit of a problem in the day. I can just about make it with a throwing stick as well at night time if I need to get the boilies out quickly. But what I'm going to do is start off with 5 kilos of bait. There's a lot of fish in here, a lot of big fish as well. So what I'm going to do is spread 5 kilos over the 3 rods. If I get a bite though, I know it's time to introduce more, because if there's a pack of fish out there and they're eating, 5 kilos isn't going to last very long. So 5 kilos to start with, time to get some bait out. Let's go do that now.
I can't actually believe this. We've been here for less than 24 hours. It is the middle of the day, which we've been told is the worst time on this lake. There was a lot of fizzing going on towards the islands. I've seen a couple show, so I just decided just to ping a single out there, just see if it would go or not. I was confident, but I wasn't really, just because people had told me that the lake doesn't do daytime bites. I was just about to make a fresh mix, and it's ripped off. I'm sorry, but your microphone might go underwater here. know, man, hanging it out its mouth. Another good one. First comment. This lake is incredible. That's 3 carp in 24 hours. Bites in the day, which we got told was pretty much impossible. I'd like to say it's skill, but it probably isn't. I'm probably just lucky. Yeah, definitely another 40 pounder, maybe 50 pounds. Lost for words. I've been able to catch 3 carp this morning, and I can't believe that I'm about to say this. I've got the second 60 pounder of the trip in the sling. We've been here less than 24 hours. We're gonna have to ring the lake owners to come down, but I'll give you a quick lift. My biggest ever common carp. Look at that. It's making me shake. It weighs a ton. I don't know what else to say. Lost for words. This time of year, September, moving into them colder months, them carp and them big carp especially are on the feed and they're looking for these high quality boilies. So all I've done is I've added 15 and 18mm scope extrude boilies into a bucket. I've then covered these boilies using liquids. I've used the scope extrude bait soak, spod syrup and worm cell. I've gave it a good mix, covered all the boilies. I've then added the stick mix. Now, adding stick mix onto these boilies, since I've added the liquid, it's gonna coat them, give them a nice texture, and I just feel like it's a lot better than just getting standard boilies out of the bag. It's gonna be breaking down as it's sinking to the bottom, breaking down on the bottom and giving plenty of attraction. I've gave it another good mix, added fine Himalayan rock salt for the same reasons as the stick mix, and the final ingredient is the flake. Now, the reason I've added flake into the mix is, in Europe, I feel like when people are using boilies, they're not crushing them up, they're not crumbing them down. So it's just something a little bit different that I feel that these French carp might have not seen before. And that is simply it. Like I said, just a couple of ingredients with a few tweaks and changes to how other people would use these. And me personally, I don't feel like there's a better bait mix to try and catch them big carp.
Finley, opposite. Wow, he has got off to a flying start. Fair play to him, he's angled incredibly. 2 60-pounders within the first 24 hours and an upper 40 as well. The lad has worked wonders, so fair play to him. Yeah, what a start for him. I'm super happy for him. For now though, I think I'm going to enjoy this lovely French evening, a lot nicer than yesterday. Sit back, relax, crack open a beer, and yeah, just head into that night period, hoping that one of those R4s is going to scream off.
Good morning. At least I think it's morning. I think it's about 4 o'clock, and to be honest, tonight has been a story of 2 halves. I had a bite around 2-3 hours ago, around 2 o'clock in the morning. Picked up into the fish as expected. It felt like a good one. So I kited along by the island, and then there must have been a snag or something on the bottom. The fishers got caught up in the snag. Long story short, I lost it, so I wasn't the happiest people, to say the least. Anyway, I got myself together, I got the rods back out. It took way longer than it should have. Probably took about 90 minutes to get all 3 rods back out there. I think I've just drifted back off to sleep, I might be wrong. The right hander, the one that I really chucked back out long, is ripped off again. So hopefully we've got it away from the island, away from that snag. Hopefully the hook's gonna hold firm and we won't lose this one. But I'm absolutely shattered. I think I'll be doing a net job down there, but I don't think I'm gonna have time to get waders on. don't know what to say. 54 pounds of French mirror. This lake is truly something special. What a fish, what a place, what a session.
Are there any noddies out there? That's just a little bit rude, Finley, considering the position you're in and the position I'm in. Well, rumour has it that noddies don't catch fish. How are you getting on over there? Have you caught anything? Seen anything? What's the score? You're not afraid to chuck it, Finn, but I don't really have a leg to stand on at the minute, and I have caught a fish, but it's a £10 bream, mate.
What I might do is get you to come put my rods out, Finn, if that's all right, mate.
The tools for the job are really important when you're fishing out at range. The last thing that you want to do is come to France with a rod and reel that isn't going to be capable for the job, and you're not going to be able to reach them fish. Because of this, the rod choice that I've chosen this session is the 12 foot, 3.5 pound test curve X series rods. The first reason why I've picked these rods is with the 50mm butt eye. The reason for this is when you're fishing at range, the last thing that you want is friction of the line going through them eyes, and just having that 50mm butt ring will make sure there's less friction. The other thing that I like about these rods is the playing action with the fish. When you're fishing at range, you do want to be using a stiff rod, but there's no real fun in playing a fish on a broomstick. There's no bend, you can't really feel anything, but with the 12 foot, 3.5 pound test curve, it is the perfect setup for this style of fishing. Just as important as the rod choice is your reel choice. There's two things that I completely avoid when fishing at range. The first one is using a small spool reel. This isn't going to have much capacity for line, and when you're casting out there's going to be loads of friction slowing your cast down. Also, just as important is the oscillation. You want a nice slow oscillation, getting a perfect line lay on that reel, making that line come off much easier on the cast. And because of this, the reel choice that I've been using is the LR 10,000. It's our big pit reel, super slow oscillation. It's got a huge spool on there so I can get plenty of line. There's going to be low friction when casting, and it's the perfect reel for this style of fishing.
Bloody calling me a noddy. He's got some cheek, hasn't he?
The sun is finally going down after what has been a pretty hot and pretty quiet day. To be honest, I haven't seen any shows up until the last 15-20 minutes or so. It's been unbearably hot, so I decided to reel in the rods, and I've just rested the swim. I caught up on a little bit of sleep in the bivvy, made sure all the rigs were tied up for this evening, got myself nice and prepared. I've decided this evening to put all 3 rods out long, and the reason for that is I was able to get a couple of bites last night out long, while the rods down in the edge didn't really produce anything. So that's going to be the plan this evening. Like I said, the fish are starting to wake up a little bit. There's a few showing out long. To be honest, more towards Alfie, so I really do have my fingers crossed that tonight it's going to be his turn to get a bite or two.
Oh, God. I couldn't have had the binoculars pointed closer to where that carp has just come out then. As it stands, there's 24 patches of bubbles, but in the swim next door, if they move right to left and carry on feeding like they are, it's game on. Well, especially for my right-hander, which I've chucked further to the right. They're quite a way away from my baited spot at the minute, but I'm hoping it's just a waiting game at the minute. I'm not going to disturb anything. I just need these buggers to go that way. That is crazy, absolutely crazy. I've been saying to Sam, the cameraman, all morning, probably about 8 hours now, any second now, Sam, because the fizzing's been getting closer and closer. And I tell you, no word of a lie, I went any second now, Sam, and it went. Yeah, sorry folks at home. I'm really going to try and concentrate on this. Come on, this time you might. This time you might. Yes! Woo! Well, I'm off the mark. 47.5 pound. Oh, of Trois Iles mirror, big old football. Actually come to the rod that I cast a single hook bait to this morning. So a bit of opportunistic angling there. Really excited to be off the mark, and hopefully this is a change in my week, and I'm going to bag plenty more as we go along the session. Come on, girl. See you later. That way.
The daylight hours seem to be really slow and unproductive at the moment, so I'm going to take this time to run through the rig setup that I'm using on this trip. It's a pretty simple rig, a few slight modifications to the rig that I used back in the UK, and I'm going to run through them reasons. Now, starting off is the hook bait. On there I've got a 15mm yellow Scopex grid pop-up, and underneath I've got a 15mm Scopex grid hardened hook bait. Now the reason I'm using this hook bait choice, there's a few different reasons. Now for the hardened hook bait, it's to try and avoid the crayfish in there. If I'm getting pested, it's always going to make sure that I've got bait on the rig. Now also in here there's quite a few bream, so I'm using quite a large hook bait, but I'm having to be careful with how large I'm going with the hook bait. Fishing at range, the last thing that you want to be doing is casting out a 20 or two 20mm boilies. It's going to make the rig less aerodynamic and you're going to struggle hitting the clip. So having two 15mm, for me personally, I find this to be the perfect hook bait. As for the hook, I'm using a size 4 Fang X hook. Now this is a little bit different compared to what I used back in the UK. My favourite hook is a twister, however over here it's a barbless reel, and I find just using the Fang X I get better hook holds and I lose a lot less fish using this pattern in a barbless. On the other hook I've got a hook kicker, and for the hook link I'm using 20 skin link in stiff. Again, hook link is really important when fishing at range, and it needs to be something that's stiff, so when you're casting it out there, you know it's not going to tangle. And to help it not tangle, I've also got a long anti-tangle sleeve. The last thing that you want to be doing is using a short anti-tangle sleeve or not using one at all, because you're going to be casting out there, it's going to be tangling up and you're not going to be fishing effectively. The rig length that I've been using on this session is between 9 and 10 inches, and the reason for that is I'm fishing for big carp over a spread of boilies, and I can imagine them carp moving between mouthfuls. So that's a rig that I've been using. It's very basic, very simple, but it's been getting fantastic hook holds, and touch wood, I haven't suffered from any hook pulls yet. So I'm going to get this rig back out on the spot, and you never know, this one might be the rig that catches the 80-pounder.
Just sinking this line. So that rod that you've just seen me put out there is my left hander from last night, which has been the one that I baited up from the day that I got here, but I just haven't seen carp anywhere near it at all. I'm convinced the bait is still there. There's been no signs of fizzing, no signs of fish jumping. I only caught one bream the first night. The rods that have been there haven't been getting any crayfish action, so I'm almost writing that off for the time being. I'm going to focus as far as I can as to where I got that bite on that single yesterday. The other two are out there, but they just seem to be a little bit further right. So we might be chasing bubblers again today, but it bloody worked yesterday.
Throughout your session, you might find certain days it can be a little bit harder to reach a spot. It might be because the weather's changed, or you could just be absolutely shattered from catching massive carp. Now, the few things that I'd do to improve my casting if this is a problem is the first thing I'll consider is the hook bait choice. If you're using a 20mm boilie or possibly a snowman, that rig is going to be less aerodynamic, there's going to be more air resistance, and that could be a reason why you're not hitting the clip. If this is a problem, simply just make the hook bait a little bit smaller. If I'm still not hitting the clip, I'll possibly change lead size. Now, The lead size that I've been using on this session is a 4 ounce. However, I'm pretty confident I'll be able to hit it with a 3.5 or a 4.5, but in certain conditions, I wouldn't be able to. So fishing at range, just make sure you've got a nice selection of lead so you can chop and change and make sure that you're hitting the clip.
Mr. Finley, are you there? Good morning, Alfie. I'm indeed here, living. Life is good.
No carp last night. What about you? Anything happening?
Very cheery then. I thought that was going to be some good news before you said no carp. No, mate, nothing.
I'm a little bit surprised. I was confident last night with that weather.
Yeah, again, it just hasn't happened, mate. What's going on? You seen much? This morning it is freezing cold over here, and I have not seen, I tell a lie, I've seen one carp, but it was very far away.
But I did actually have a bite around 11 o'clock last night, and I was reeling it in, felt like a carp. She then proceeded to take about 400 yards off my spool, thrashing on the surface, and then it came off. So I think I hooked one of the sturgeon, which is quite surprising.
Because the guy next to me actually caught one of the sturgeons yesterday, but I think them things are just
proper greedy and just massive hoovers.
I would say I feel sorry for you, mate, but you've had 2 60s.
60s and 40s, so I don't, if I'm honest.
I'm trying.
But you never know if there's fish bigger than that in here, you know what I mean?
All it takes is one bite, isn't it? So I think although I am going for a quiet period,
That's the motivation that's going to keep me getting them rods out and keep baiting up every night. I'm going to go tidy up, mate. Keep us updated and I'll speak to you soon.
good luck.
And I hope you catch a bream.
You
Bastard.
After the first night's fishing here, when I literally put 3 singles out because it was getting late on, when I wound the baits in the morning, 3 of them had been a little bit of crayfish activity. Some were still presented, you know, it wouldn't have affected a fish picking it up. The other one, I think one of the rods actually was completely destroyed. Whap, whap, whap. Crayy. The next day though, after I introduced a bit of bait, they all came back in absolutely fine. So I didn't put any sort of protection around the baits because I thought the fact that because there's a platter of bait out there, there's not enough of them to cause problems. But since the week's gone on, you can't really put your finger on it. Some nights it's been fine, other nights it's been a little bit not okay. The baits have been a little bit destroyed. So halfway through the week, I did decide to start using the claw cracker mesh on my baits. Now all that is very similar to PVA mesh, except it doesn't dissolve and it stops the crayfish from actually pecking your bait. And yeah, since using that, I've had absolutely no problems. The baits have been coming back exactly as I put them out and giving me complete confidence. Because the last thing I want to do, sometimes I'm waking up in the morning and that's when I'm seeing a lot of fish activity. And to begin with, I was like, oh, have the crayfish been at the baits? And that's the last thing you want because you don't want to be winded in when there's a lot of fish over your spot. But at the same time, you don't want to be sitting there thinking that you might not have any baits on your rig. So yeah, just to show you exactly how I do protect the baits. Claw cracker, bait mesh. Very simple to use, literally just drop the bait in like it was a PVA mesh bag. Overhand granny knot, keep it nice and tight, blob the ends, and yeah, you've just got a protective shield around the bait. You know, it looks a little bit funny because you've got 2 sort of large tag ends if you like, but it makes no difference to the bait whatsoever. Certainly didn't affect me getting a take on the fish that I had. Better to be protected and confident knowing that your bait is still there.
I've kept 2 rods out on that long spot. It's all about building up a spot on week-long sessions. However, with the 3rd rod, I have put it nice and tight up against the island. in an area where I have been seeing a few fish crash every evening, and on this rod I've just went in with a single quadrilled hook bait. I'm just trying something a little bit different. I know that I'm not doing anything wrong, it's just a case of waiting until the fish turn up in the area. I might sound a little bit out of breath, like I've just run 500 metres. That's because I have just run 500 metres. It's been lifeless for the last few days. So I just went and had a shower, get really freshened up, left the cameraman watching the rods. When I just got out of the shower, I had a phone call from Alfie saying Tony was playing one. I thought he was winding me up, but I ran down here. And yeah, the rod that I put against the island, I'd like to say screamed off, but I don't have a clue what the bite was like. It's had a bite. I came running back up, chucked the waders on, and down here somewhere, there's a big carp. Yes. Yes. The last few days for me have been really hard, really slow, and to be honest, I haven't seen a single fish short in front of this peg, and I'm not going to lie, confidence was pretty low. So I took the opportunity to go have a shower, a bit of a freshen up. I left the cameraman in charge of the rods, and typically the rod that I cast up against the island has ripped off, and with a bit of teamwork we've been able to land this. I am absolutely buzzing after a very few hard days to have another one. It is beating me up, it's very lively, I'm not going to lie. Give it one last lift, but what a way to go into the night. Oh, that was a lot smoother than I was expecting to net a grass carp. I've never caught one before. There we go. I've never caught one before, but I've heard plenty of stories that we go crazy in the net, like it is now. But yeah, it looks like a pretty big chub. I knew there was a few grass carp in here. I'm a little bit scared lifting it because, as you would have seen when it went in the net, it was very lively, but a 47 pound grass carp. Look at that. I don't know what to say, but it's only got dark about an hour ago. That's 2 bites in this evening, so fingers crossed we're going to be in for an action-packed night. Most people hate grass carp, but for my first one, I can't complain at that.
Feels like a long time coming this one, but I finally got my second fish of the trip. 44 pound, and this time over the baited area, which is a really good sign, which means hopefully I can get more bites because there's a nice bit of bait out there. It's just gone 4 in the morning. We can do some stills now, and I'm really looking forward to the final day where we might just be able to snare a big one. Or a proper big one, I should say. Finley's already caught loads of big ones. Short, wide and fat. Come on, Kel, off you go. Thank you.
It just shows how your session can turn around. The last few days have been really slow for myself and I haven't seen a single carp show in front of this peg. But it's really important when you're on long sessions that you keep trickling in the bait, establishing a spot, so when them fish do turn back up on you, you're going to maximise it, and that is exactly what happened last night. I was able to catch 2 fish, one incredible 50-pound mirror, and I know people don't like grass carp, but me personally, I love them. I caught a new personal best grass carp at just over 47 pounds. And if I caught them 2 fish throughout the 4 week, I would have been buzzing, but obviously between the fish that me and Alfie have caught, this session has been far greater than I could have ever dreamed of. I've just redone the rods this morning because, to be honest, with the amount of fish that were showing out there last night, although I did catch 2, I should have caught more, so I reeled them in, just checked the hook bait, they were still okay, I thought I might have been crayed. Redone the rods, they're back out there, and for the final 24 hours, them rods are staying out there. Throughout the other days, I have been reeling in, sort of resting the spot, but like I said, we're coming to the end of the session now, and that dream of a 70-pounder is still there, and you just never know when you get that bite, it could just be. So rods are out there, and me and Alfie for the next 24 hours are going to be trying our bloody socks off to catch a proper monster. But I'm going to sit here now, drink this coffee, and you never know, we might be in for a bit of daytime action.
Well, I've been chucking single choddies at fizzes to my right this morning and they've just stopped, completely stopped. So I've whipped the chod in and just decided to chuck it as far as I could towards no man's lands, and it's gone within 5 minutes. Literally, I don't even, sort of all a bit of a blur. Like I had 2 rods out, or 1 rod out, this was the second, and yeah, it's just sort of gone, just picked up and gone. So hopefully I can get it in. Go on, go. Oh, yes! Woo! Oh, you know when you really want one to go out in the net? That pulled my arm off, that did. Absolutely pulled my arm off. Well, I just went to unhook it in the net, expecting to see a chod rig, and it's my slip D. I've got so caught up in the moment, when I picked up the rod, the other one, it sort of fell off the front alarm and I placed it on the middle rod, so obviously when I'm playing it, I thought this was the left-hand rod, but this one was off the baited spot, which is a much better feeling if I'm honest. Oh, there we go, my second fish in 12 hours, right on the last day. 49 pounds, my biggest of the week so far. I'm really chuffed with this. Over the baited spot. Let's hope that I can bag another one before the trip's out. God, it's heavy. Go on, girl. Off you go. You beat me up. That fish, mate, I've never been beaten up by a fish on the bank so much. It was absolutely, I don't know, how have yours been when you've been trying to take photos of them?
It's a bit of a challenge to lift them. I can't imagine what a 70 or an 80 pounder would feel like to lift. I'm just very happy. When I woke up this morning, I seen that you caught one last night. I don't know, I was proud, and then I looked over and I seen you playing another one. I thought you were getting a little bit greedy, but...
yeah, no, I'm glad I made you proud, mate, because I was sitting there last night, matey next door had a 64, I think it was. You just had the 50, and I was thinking, I'm letting the team down. I'm letting the team down here. I was thinking, I need to pull my finger out. So when that one went off, and the good thing about it, it was on the baited spot it's taken. So that would have been Friday morning. So from Sunday, really.
It was a strange feeling sat in Alfie's swim. We were going into the final evening. We'd been talking about this trip for months and months, and it was all coming to an end. However, one thing that I'd learned on this trip is when you get a bite, you just don't know what's on the end. So going into that final evening, we were going to give it 110%. I'd been sat opposite Alfie all week, watching him go through the highs and lows, and I really hoped that this evening was going to be his chance to catch a monster.
Saturday morning, 8:15 in the morning. One last goodbye, eh? Fish number 4. Good timing. Oh, would you believe it? Look, I got this bite at 8 AM. It's Saturday morning. We've got 2 hours before we've got to be out the gate. And yeah, I've managed one last Trois Iles carp. So to finish the film on this fish has made me so happy. I've been through so many emotions this week, but it all came good in the end. 4 carps at 49 pound and a comment to the album as well. Hey, what a trip in the end.